Today we have the investment letter, our portfolio allocation letter for my family office here today, January 2024, believe it or not. So I want to start with a little story, and this is really important for the context shift. And context shifting is the biggest, like Robert Kiyosaki has always done this forever. Shifting context. He's not teaching you how to do said thing. He's teaching you how to think, where to kind of go and shifting your context. So that's what stories do at the end of the day. That's why Robert Kiyosaki is applauded and also vilified at the same time, because he's constantly telling stories over and over, the same 10 to 20 stories for the last 30 plus years, and people can't stand it because they're like, teach me what to do, what stock to go into, what apartment complex should I buy. And his job is just to basically shift the context of the masses and get them so emotionally charged and emotionally engaged that they want to go then do the work themselves. That's how you sell. That's how you have systematic mass marketing at the highest level. Robert Kiyosaki is the best example of that. So in 2008, 2009, and I'm reading a little bit from my blog here. So again, you can go into the Substack and go check the actual blog out with the portfolio allocation. You can see the pie charts and how things are broken down. You're not going to want to miss this because it's very interesting over the last 4 months how the allocation has changed big time. And if you are so inclined, please, I have tips in there for Bitcoin tips. This is what I do full time. I have moved my entire life over the last year and a half to doing this and educating people. My calling for 20 years to educate people in money, and educating people in where the puck is going. As a former hockey player, the Wayne Gretzky quote really hits home for me. So if you feel so generous at the moment, please, whatever it is you think is what kind of value that we are putting out on our videos, our content, our portfolio allocation. The portfolio allocation monthly will probably be a paid service at some point in the future. I've been doing it for a year and a half and putting out where my funds are actually allocated over the last 10 years that have done us very well. I mean, we've up 10 to 15x just from 10 years ago, our net worth. And I was just looking from 2020, we're up 3x just from 2020 alone. And when you denominate in Bitcoin as well, we are up as well, which things usually go down in Bitcoin. So pretty interesting. I suggest people do denomination in Bitcoin and in dollars as well. That really will put perspective as to where things are going. So 2008, 2009 hit, and I was a senior at Michigan State at the time, and it puzzled me as to why you had these too big to fail companies being bailed out by the Republicans, which I was a Republican at that time, and thinking, here's the small government, fiscally conservative people, but all of a sudden they're bailing out companies. And then the Democrats came in and finished the job. It was there where I realized the moral hazard we are creating was going to be massive in the future. And I realized there that the uniparty was the big thing. The uniparty is not red versus blue, it's the state versus you. This is again where I realized that the uniparty was here to stay, and George Carlin's quote of "There's a one big party, and you and I aren't in it." That's it. Like, he nailed it, right? Comedians often get things right because they get to deal in the truth. They're truth dealers, unlike the media, who are dopamine dealers. They're there to just light your brain on fire, as Nolan Bowerley says, to light your brain on fire, get you triggered, and keep you distracted from the real things that are going on, like this. So again, this blew my mind open. The subsequent ramming of Obamacare down, this is the second big thing. And just a year later, the second big inflection point, Obamacare being rammed down our throat. And then the architects, a year after that, admitting that they lied to the American people and lack of transparency was a great political tool. And they had to then, all in the same, 2-year span. Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House at the time, the Speaker of the House. So you have the President, his people, two presidents, their people, and the Speaker of the House, the most powerful people in the world, saying, we need to pass that bill to see what's in it. And to me, as a young 20-something, this blew my mind open. The fact that adults, all the adults, and people I looked up to, mentors, adults, everyone just sat idly by, it'll be fine. I didn't just have two middle fingers in my face by my politicians, by my elected leaders, the people are supposed to be serving me and working for me. That was a Rubicon. That was a watershed moment for me, and I realized we have gone socialist. And I know that's a 4-letter word. People just are going to dismiss that and like, okay, I'm not going to listen to whatever he says now. But we truly are, if you study socialism, communism, and actually see what was happening. We talk about this book all the time. And when you don't understand, your history, great, we know what happens. You're doomed to repeat it. But more importantly, you have to see the lens at which we are operating our lives through, the lens at which academia operates through, the lens, the perception, the stories that are being told through media, through pop culture. It all emanates from here. And it all emanates from the 45 goals as well. If you understand these 2 documents, you understand everything. The 45 communist goals stated in the 50s, I believe, but then read into Congress in 1963. And in here, you have the planks. The 5th plank is the centralization of credit and money into a central bank. And then the 45 goals of coming into Hollywood, usurping power and taking over Hollywood, taking over one of the political parties in America, present homosexuality and degeneracy and promiscuity as normal, natural, and healthy, pornography, eliminating all laws governing obscenity, control art critics and art museums, do away with loyalty oaths, resist any attempt to outlaw the Communist Party, promote the UN as the only hope for mankind, discredit the American Constitution. These are all different goals they had. Discredit the American Founding Fathers. Belittle all forms of American culture and discourage the teaching of American history. And then go on and on and on. We actually have separate videos. I've done separate videos on our YouTube channel and our blog where you can go find these videos. So this was the basis. I had this information when I was a kid. I read this stuff as a child. And, people talk about seeing the future or conspiracy theorists. To me, it's just pattern recognitionist. That's all we're doing. Someone that's a conspiracy theorist, there could be people that are outlandish with what they're saying. But in general, most conspiracy theorists, as the media calls you to try to discredit you and character assassinate you, generally just a pattern recognitionist. You've just seen this pattern play out over time, over and over. You've read history, and you're seeing it now happen in real life. And then, of course, most people aren't going to agree with you, and they're going to call you something because their brain can't handle it, and they haven't seen it before, and you're coming up with what seems like a radical idea to most people, because, again, they have no frame of reference. They have no foundation. And that's why people get called conspiracy theorists, because they don't understand where we're coming from. They have no frame of reference to reality. That's why we have conspiracy theorists. So not to go down that rabbit hole, but this is why I started down the path of investing. After that was the inflection points of, wow, we are going down this rabbit hole that we can't come back from. So I need to stop wasting my time worrying what other people are doing and fighting politics of red versus blue when the money's broken. And it got me into what is money. Reading Creature from Jekyll Island from Robert Kiyosaki first. Not Rich Dad Poor Dad, but Why We Want You to Be Rich, ironically, because I knew Donald Trump, but I didn't know Kiyosaki. That opened me up to Robert Kiyosaki and his world. And I've read all his books, thousands of hours of listening to him on YouTube and podcasts. And I started investing in myself, my skills, business, investment, got into real estate, and just started going down that road for 10 plus years. And then it led me to gold and silver shortly after that. And then it led me to Bitcoin in 2017, 2018, and started getting into it then. And then really didn't understand the power of Bitcoin until 2020. And understanding the money was truly broken at the level of gold and silver can't fix that, actually. And that's why it hasn't fixed the problem for 5,000 years. It was the best we had, but couldn't actually fix the highest level problem, which is the bullet hole, the wound that we keep putting Band-Aids over with more fiat, with more political banter and more laws and regulations and the next politician. Until you fix the money and have a money that's issued by the people, nothing will ever change. We'll keep fighting the same battles for 100 years. We'll come back. The same things will be happening. So it was, how do I become better myself? And start leading my family and the people around me out into a greener pasture, into a better world, off the Fiat Legacy Titanic onto a life raft. And initially, like I said, it was investing in real estate, and I had a lot of people investing with me and doing that, and then getting people into gold and silver. But again, a lot of people weren't doing that still. Like, that's tough to do. It takes a lot of experience to do real estate, and people, you need trust. And a lot of people, you can only help so many people at one time as well. You have 4 people in there, or 10, or 8, or whatever. You can only help so many people. And most people can't do real estate. They're not going to. So that's where I got into, like I said, gold and silver as well. And most people aren't going to do that either. It's just too much for people. Enter Bitcoin. That's why Bitcoin was so easy. People can buy it so easily. They can custody it, store it in a cold storage wallet. It's their own immediately, within seconds, within minutes. It's done. and it's yours. And it takes no IQ. It's a humility test, not an IQ test, and which we've talked about a lot lately. The humility in lowering your ego, raising your humility, and understanding that all of what you thought of life is probably wrong. Or I shouldn't say all of it, but you've lived this life for a long time where you thought it was a certain way, but it's not. And it just wasn't so. It makes me think of Ronald Reagan's quote of Democrats know so much that isn't so. And that's a very dangerous proposition. And that's what makes it hard for people to turn over to this new world, to get on the life raft, because the comfort of what you know, the Titanic, the deck of the Titanic, and reading all the headlines thinking that's unsinkable, it's a very hard proposition to get off this massive ocean liner into the middle of the freezing ocean at midnight. That's very tough. Even when it becomes very obvious that it's going down, even when it's going under the waves, people still think that, you know what, we're fine. It's going to be fine. So buckle up. It's election season. we're right back here where I began this story. We're right into another election season. And fortunately, like I said, we've done pretty well positioning ourselves for the coming turmoil, as things are going to get worse before they get better. So removing myself from mainstream thinking and mainstream culture has been the biggest benefit of my life. Once formal school ended, my real education began 15 years ago, and the older I got, the more I could not stay in school. I was arguing with teachers. Nothing made sense. So these things became very natural. Your money working for you, using leverage. In the debt-based system, that's great. But we want an equity-based system where we minimize the wealth gap. How do we minimize the wealth gap? How do we make sure someone at McDonald's and someone who's a doctor and a Robert Kiyosaki, a huge real estate investor, how do we make sure that they're all on the same playing field? That they're all with the same rules, playing with the same rules, and it's the same tier of justice. We have to have an equity-based money, an actual capital-based money. Capitalism. Capitalism is broken unless you have a true money, a pure money that it's riding on top of. Right now, we don't have capitalism. You hear of crony capitalism or corporate welfare, like all these different things, right? All these different euphemisms or different ways to say capitalism. And it's true because capitalism doesn't work on a debt-based fiat monetary system with bonds, root word of bondage. It doesn't work. It does not work in that system. Excuse me. We have a political Bitcoin hour coming up soon that I need to host here a little bit. So you have to have the proper structure in order for it to work. So it's time to prepare the lifeboats for the storms that are ahead. Because we know they are. We know they're coming. We have to prepare for them. So anyway, that's the big thing. Please go to the Substack. I'll finish here just another minute or two. The Substack, like I said, has the pie charts that I'm looking at right now. Our allocation has gone up significantly in Bitcoin because of Bitcoin eating the whole system. And it's not because I'm just dollar cost averaging. It's not like I'm going and buying a bunch of extra Bitcoin. I am just seeing the rise in purchasing power of the Bitcoin. It's because the dollar's falling. So I mean, it takes more and more dollars or yen or lira or pesos to buy the same Bitcoin. Bitcoin doesn't change. One Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. It's a constant. There's only 21 million. The dollar is what falls and what makes it look like asset prices are rising. Real estate, stocks, Bitcoin's price in dollars. It looks like these things are going up in value. But if you divide it by each other or real assets, you'll see that Bitcoin is eating all these things. You'll see that just real estate and stocks have been sideways. Because with all the money printing, or currency printing, I should say, from the Fed over the last 15 years since the crash, everything's gone sideways. So values of these things haven't actually gone up. They've gone sideways. And there's great charts about that we've shared here as well in the past. So please go check those out. It's really, really important. And you can see the rest, and I break down the other asset classes where you can see the rest of what's going on in the different asset classes. The cash, what we're doing with cash, what we're doing with commodities, real estate, rentals, paper, so stocks and bonds, which, newsflash, we have very minimal of. I think we just have a small IRA that my wife had from 10 years ago, which we've tripled. I'll give you a sneak peek. We've tripled with Bitcoin type of investments over the last couple of years. In Bitcoin itself, in cold storage, and then businesses and what we're looking to do in business. So please go check that out. Go to the link, click that, check that out. I've got it all laid out there, the different sections, the different allocations, my percentage allocations. You're going to be shocked at how much it's changed over the last few months. I have the pie charts there, I have the numbers there for you. And I've got you some pictures of some great wallets to use in here for cold storage wallets. I would suggest Blockstream Jade and Coldcard. Those are the things that I use. And for hot wallets, that's changed a bit, so I actually have to update this photo. But Blue Wallet's good. Wallet Satoshi's hard to get now in the U.S., but whether it's Pine or Breeze or Mutiny Wallet or Coinos, there's some really good ones out there now that you can use as hot wallets. that your day-to-day spending, and then your cold wallets. That's where your long-term wealth is stored. And then I talk about some issues we're having in real estate, where commodities I think are going, and then some other items you're not going to miss in there. So I'll leave that for you to go check out there. And then I'll end with this. At the end of the day, with all the turmoil and the job losses over the last year, all you can do is build community. That's the number one thing. We talk about this all the time. Build a group of people around you in your life and accumulate hard assets. That's what I've done. Weapons, food, security, water, outside of community. Community is the number one thing in a survival situation. But build monetary assets that are outside of the centralized control, only under your control. That is the biggest thing I can give to someone. And hopefully my story kind of resonates with some of you. I've actually met a number of people over the years in Bitcoin, or Bitcoiners in the Bitcoin world that have very similar stories to me. We have this Gen Y, millennial segment of people who went through the same thing, kind of recognized what was going on. And I thought I was completely alone for 10 years. And my family, my family members understood and got it and saw what was going on. I'm talking about just at least people my age. I thought I was completely alone. So older people tended to see what was going on a little bit more. But I do not want to be left outside in the cold. I do not want to be left. There has to be a system that has broken the social contract with me, my family, and society. I will not put my life and my family's safety in the hands of government, in the hands of a government hell-bent on using every last bit of my freedom and wealth to uphold its own power. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. If you got something out of this, please, this is not financial advice, it's freedom advice, but please share this out. The algorithm hates truth. Like I said, if you feel like tipping, like we provided value, and we continue to provide value to you, great. We'd love for the support, to have the support to continue doing this, because it's not easy. Again, I literally left my real estate team and said, hey, you guys can keep doing real estate, but you can't do it here anymore. And because I knew I was called into this world, I was called into educating people, into helping 8 billion people instead of just a few people in real estate and trying to do things for myself. It's the Bucky Fuller principle of how can we do more with less. And that is really the principle of Bitcoin and a deflationary money based in justice, equity, fairness, which are words that equity and justice, those are 4-letter words to me, because has been bastardized by the American left and used in this fiat, disgusting way, in a way they don't even understand or actually believe. They just use it to attack people that are generally constitutionalist or libertarian or on the political right here in America. If you're true for actual justice, for climate justice, for actual fairness, equity, inclusion, the Bitcoin is the only system. It's the only system that actually reinforces and actually utilizes those principles, which is the hilarity in all of it. So anyone who knows me knows that if Brandon's saying that, then that must mean it's a world where these two things are coming together. It's not the red versus blue. It's the state versus you. It's collectivism versus individualism. So again, I appreciate you. Please share us out. The algorithms hate truth, and it's not going to spread this any further than what we're doing here. Obviously, I thank you for many of the videos or the tweets and the comments. People saying like, how does this not have hundreds and thousands of views and over time? I appreciate it, but we all know why these things don't have many views. And I post more on Nostr. I'm posting these videos more on Nostr going forward, and Twitter, and they get a lot more views there and shares, things like that. But they're not going to on YouTube or Google anytime soon. So please share these things out. Question everything with boldness, even the existence of God himself. Trust but verify. And like I said, this is not financial advice, it is freedom advice. And we'll see you on the next one. Go to, again, the blog link, the Substack link here, to get the actual spread, see the actual pie charts, the breakdowns. You're not going to want to miss this because it's very interesting in the last few months. And I put a lot of time into putting these together. So I thank you, and I'll see you on the next one.